called him a little bit before, gave him this yud in his name. He became Yehoshua, and he blessed him, Ya Hashem, Yoshiacha me'atzat meraglim. Hashem will save you from their plots, from whatever they want to do. And Caleb didn't get this blessing, but it says that as he came to Hebron, where our mothers and fathers buried over there, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and their wives, so he prayed over there so that he won't be influenced by them, by his friends. So see what a prayer can do. Once somebody came to the stapler, Zechrono Livracha, of Yaakov, what was his name? Yaakov Yitzchak Kanievsky, the father of Rav Chaim Kanievsky that lives with us today. So his father was a great man and was a great Talmid Chacham. And he comes to him and he asks him, Rabbi, I want you to bless me to have children. I don't have kids. I'm married for so many years and I don't have kids yet. The rabbi said, yeah, okay, I bless you. He says, no, not just a blessing. I want a promise. I've come here already in the past. I went to another rabbis, to some other rabbis. They all blessed me, but now I want a promise, not only a bless. He's like, what do you want me? I don't promise anything to anybody. Go away. He's not. He's staying there. The rabbi continues learning, and he sits in his office and he doesn't want to go. So after a while, the rabbi sees him there, and he's like, what do you want? He says, I came for the blessing. He says, I blessed you already. He said, no, I want a promise. And the rabbi says, no promises, I'm sorry, I don't promise. What do you want from me? And he continues learning, but the man now is sitting, he turned his chair and he sits exactly in front of the rabbi. And the rabbi is annoyed, like, you bother me, and he's like, what do you want from me? And he says, I cannot promise this thing. And he sits there, continues sitting there, doesn't want to leave. And he didn't know what to do, the rabbi. He sees that he really bothers him to study. So he raises his voice and he tells him, get out of my house and let me learn, and Hashem will help you, and soon you're going to have Zar Shakayama. So everybody heard that. It was a shout, it was a yelling. And he was so happy, he felt that this was a promise. So he said, thank you, Rabbi, and they left. So a year later, he comes to the rabbi and he invites him to the brit, and he asks him if he could be the sandak. The rabbi at that time was used to go to there, but he told him, yes, okay, I'll go, but Hashem this. The grandfather heard that the guy invites the rabbi to be the sandak and not him. And he's like, how come? You're first me. He tells him, but he promised me. Without his promise, this bracha wouldn't happen. And he says, Rav Kanievsky promised? Are you sure? Cannot be. He says, I'm going to ask him myself. And Be'emet, after the brit, he comes to the rabbi and he asks him, is that true that you promised that he's going to have a baby boy or baby? So the rabbi was smiling and he told him something like that. He tells him, that day I didn't think about this anymore. I forgot about it. Before I went to bed, people, they think what they've done during the day, what they have to improve, what they have to change. Also, I remember this guy. And I was frightened. What if he thinks that the shout that I gave is a promise? I didn't promise. I just wanted him I just wanted to get rid of him. So what should I do? He was thinking, and his son, Rav Chaim, he came to visit him, and he's asking him, what do you think I should do? So Rav Chaim tells him, you know something? Say a few chapters of Tehillim, and afterwards, say a nice prayer that you'll have children, and you'll be fine, you'll be okay with this. He said, fine. He started to say Tehillim, and he says, because I'm not used to say Tehillim so fluent, it took me the whole night, and I finished Tehillim when it became morning. So the whole night, basically, I said Tehillim. He says, it's not a miracle. If you think it's a miracle, it's not. Because I davened the whole night so that this guy was good. If you're going to do the same, if you will care for somebody and you will pray for him the whole night, this miracle will happen to you too. So this is caring that we're talking about, okay? Of course, he was a great man and it was a miracle, but he was humble and he said it's because of this. So see what the prayer could do. When somebody really prays, it can really goes to heaven, opens all the locked gates, and goes through. Caleb comes to pray in Hebron, next to Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, so that you won't be influenced by them. It says, "Ve'avdi Caleb ruach acheret hayta imo." My servant Caleb, he's called. This is how his description is. Why is called my servant Caleb? Because Caleb didn't get this blessing like Yehoshua got from Moshe. And once he felt that being close to these spies, he does get from them their attitude, he turned to Hashem. Hashem, please help me. I don't want to be part of this. And because he asked, he sought for Hashem's help, okay, this is a servant. This is a servant of Hashem, the one that looks for help of Hashem. Every test that we go through our life, whether it's a small test or it's a big test, we think that we can overcome. But every little thing we need a siyata d'ishmaya, we need the help from heaven to overcome it, to pass it safely, okay? And so this was, Caleb said, if Moshe didn't pray for me, he could have said, so I won't be able to do anything about this. But no, he said, if Moshe didn't pray for me, I'll go and pray for myself. Because Hashem shomea tfilat kol peh, Hashem listens to everybody, right? When they go to him, when they cry to him. So this is what Caleb did.
Caleb went into Eretz Israel also? I know Yeshua went. Caleb also went.
Caleb went to Eretz Israel. He got, I think he inherited Hebron. It was his part. And he was 40 at that time of being a spy. And he was about 80, 85, it says, when he comes, it's the description in Sefer Yehoshua, he comes to him and he asks him his portion. And yeah, he was there. And so when all the spies are talking to Israel, Caleb and Yehoshua want to silence them, to keep them quiet. They want to talk. They have a saying also, but they couldn't talk because everybody was talking. It was a whole big thing, and they couldn't control them. They couldn't sing. So Caleb started to say, "V'chizo bilvad asa lanu ben Amram." Is this the only thing that Moshe did to us? In a negative way. He was also, psychologically, he was working on them also. The nation, the people heard that he wants to talk about Moshe, maybe in a negative way. They kept quiet. They want to listen to what he said. And this is when Caleb said, he opened to us, he split for us the Yam Suf. He gave us the man. He did this miracle. He did that miracle. And we will be able to do it. And we will be able, and don't worry, and everything will be okay. It was very hard to keep them, but he was able to do it. And it says that Yehoshua, he got protection from the sin because Moshe prayed for him. So he got protection in a way from heaven. But Caleb, he didn't get this protection from heaven. He prayed himself and he got it by himself, this protection. And this is how Caleb, in a way, was able to go through these people's mind and eliminate the Yetzer Hara. At that moment, their evil inclination was against, and to influence them to start thinking different. So this is this Ruach Acheret Shahayta Imo. wanted to finish with some tips when we speak about positive thinking. Moshe asked the spies to tour Israel, right? If we look at everything in life like in a point of view of tourists, it will make life so much easier. People who live in Paris, do they go next to the tower, Eiffel Tower, every day, take pictures next to it, stand it, look at this, observe it, right? People, Egyptians, people who live in Cairo or some other places of Egypt, do they go every day to the pyramids over there, take pictures?
Empire State.
Empire State. We live in here, right, in New York. Do we go every day to check on the Empire State or some other? Usually we don't. And so they say that if you do look at these amazing things that we have under your nose, under our nose, it's here, and we pay attention to it, this attitude, the view that we have could be so different. Sometimes, let's say, a single person, he looks at your marriage life and he envies it. He also wants calm life, in a way secured, in a way, single people who looks at married people, they think, oh, they're happy, they have it, everything, and he as himself, he has to look for another girl, and he has to hear another thing, and he has to search, and he has to find out, and he doesn't know, and he's not sure, and it's hard, and he's alone. And married people from the other side, they look at a bachelor as something interesting and nice and exciting. Maybe marriage life for them could be boring or too much burden or whatever. So people look at your house. They may think, oh, it's a beautiful house, it's a huge thing, it has so much interesting things, it's cool, it's this, it's that. What they're looking in your house for something that they're missing, for something that they don't have. So rename again from the beginning how you look at things, because a human being is what he eats, what he thinks, what he feels. This is what he is. And if you keep complaining about the bad day that you had, about the stress that you have to go through, about this, about that, so your next day will be the same, and the next day will be the same. But if you change, if you rename, think about this different. Instead of saying, oh, what a terrible day I had, you're going to say, it's a challenging day for me. And once you change the name of it, naturally, psychologically, you're going to think of this as a positive instead of as a negative. So this is one tip that they give over here. Number 2, you say always you look for the good news. And the good news are, okay, some people they say, I have good news for you and I have bad news for you. What do you want to start with? Always just good news, not bad news. Because the news are there, you just have to look for them, you just have to find it, it's there. And so yeah, when the car broke down, you couldn't continue your ride, and when the bus was late and you got too late to work, and when you don't find the keys of your car, all of a sudden disappeared, and when you got sweating to your workplace, and so think, but from the other side, you had the telephone number of the tow truck. All of a sudden, you remember that you had this and you can make this phone call. And your neighbor, he offered you a ride, and you came sweaty to your job, and because of this, or not because of that day, you had only half a day work. And so there are good blessings that you have to count them also. You have to look at them also. And ask yourself, they say, what can I do to succeed? How can I overcome my difficulties? What are the positive things in my life? What is this little thing that I can do to change? How can I enjoy this challenging the difficulty? How can I start to understand that difficult for me is a chance for growth? For growth. How can I learn from this experience, from my past experience, for my present now? How can I find all kind of ways to give myself a chizuk, to strengthen myself? How can I continue want to succeed in life? Okay, then continues on and on. They say something nice. Lucky people get opportunities. Brave people create opportunities. Winners connect their problems into opportunities. So, or difficulties in your life don't come to destroy you, but to help you realize your hidden potentials. This is something good that we have to learn. Last thing, quickly, we speak about tzitzit in the parasha. So in very few words here, I'll say that Parashat Shelach starts with Vayaturu Anashim, the people went to tour Israel, and finishes with Parashat Tzitzit, where it says V'lo taturu acharei levavchem v'acharei nechem. So they explain, and Hashim here explain that the punishment, the sin of the Meraglim was very severe, and even though in a way Hashem forgave over there, but still they had this decree that they will die and they will not go into Israel. And they say also that mitzvah tzitzit, it's shkula, it's equal, okay, to all the other mitzvot, because it says v'asitem et kol mitzvotai. It speaks about this mitzvah. V'asitem is like you're doing all the mitzvot. So it says in Yalkut Shimoni, v'lo tatu achrei levavchem v'achrei nechem, that the heart and the eyes are the one that look for desires, want the desires, and this is how people go and make a sin. So initially, people they're created good. The heart is good. If the heart is good, so sometimes they say that the eyes cannot influence the heart. They say. If the heart is not so good, so it can go to all kind of directions. So he covers himself with the tzitzit, that he remembers that from all sides of him, he is connected to Hashem. Tzitzit is like Shiviti Hashem Lenagdi Tamid. Hashem is always in front of me, and he reminds you, be careful, there's Hashem. Don't do this, don't do that. And so this is something to fix for whatever the spies did. The spies wanted to rebel against Hashem, didn't have this protection. Tzitzit protects, men, whereas the tzitzit protects men from all kind of desires that there are out there. Is that Hashem?
You mean the spiritual protection? Or?
Yes, spiritual protection.
It just reminds you.
Yes.
It reminds
you? It reminds. It's a reminder.
Not like spiritual.
It's a reminder for them. It's both. It's something that he wears, but it's spiritual. It's. So, yeah. B'ezrat Hashem, we should always think positive because it's so important. All your attitude at life is different. And נזכה ללמוד את המשיח בקרוב בעזרת השם. Thank you, God bless you. תודה רבה.